Just because a car looks awesome or drives like a dream doesn't mean people are actually going to buy it. Some of the coolest, most epic cars in history flopped hard in the sales department, which is the one that counts. Today, we are diving headfirst into the wild world of cars that were total sales disasters. We're talking beasts like the Viper, the Supra, and even a Lexus supercar. I'm Brad, this is Ideal, like, subscribe, and let's go. The 5th gen SRT Viper is hands down one of the most insane sports cars ever to come out of America, or the world. This thing is a fire-breathing, V10 powered monster that looks like it's going to bite you even when it's parked. We're talking 640 horsepower and performance so extreme, most nuts behind the wheel could not handle it. But despite all this, Dodge couldn't sell the thing. Why, you ask? Well, for starters, there was some major branding confusion. The Viper launched under SRT, but then it was switched back to Dodge 2 years later. What's that all about? Then it had to compete with cars like the Corvette. Yeah, which offered similar thrills for way less money. Oh, and did I mention that production was cut by a third in 2013 and even halted for 2 months in 2014 due to slow sales? They tried dropping the price by $15,000, but by then they couldn't even give these things away. So the final nail in the coffin to this sales disaster, new federal safety standards, thanks airbags, made it impossible to keep building this beast. So in 2017, the Viper slithered into the history books. But hey, legends, they never die. All right, folks, let's talk about the Lexus LFA, AKA the Symphony on Wheels. This thing isn't just a car, it's the ultimate driving experience. Powered by a 4.8 liter V10 with the help of Yamaha is one of the most exciting experiences in the world. And it revs so fast that it needed a digital tachometer. And that exhaust note, straight up F1 levels of magic. With 553 horsepower and handling sharper than a samurai sword, you'd think the LFA would have been a hit, but you're totally wrong, because Lexus barely could sell any of these things. Really, timing is everything. Originally planned for release in 2006, delays pushed back the launch to 2012, by which point cars like the Audi R8 and Nissan GT-R were already dominating the supercar scene, and for way less money to boot. Oh, and the LFA had a $375,000 price tag. For a Toyota? Yeah. That was a tough sell. Despite its early struggles, the LFA has aged like fine wine and is now hailed as one of the greatest supercars ever built. Today, it's just a legend. And if you'd like to find an LFA or any of these other ideal cars, check out Auto Tempest. I've linked to all of them pinned in the first comment. Okay, focus, because the Ford Focus RS, one of the hottest hatches ever to hit the streets, that was a sales flop because this all-wheel drive turbocharged beast pushed 350 horsepower and came with a 6-speed manual and, get this, a drift button. Yeah, you could literally push a button and drift this thing like a boss. But of course, Ford let the dealerships ruin all the fun. They added massive markups, making the RS unreachable for most enthusiasts. And good luck getting a test drive. Most dealers wouldn't even let people behind the wheel without signing their life away. So the people who wanted the Focus RS couldn't afford it, and the ones who could afford it, well, they didn't want a stiff, loud boy racer hatchback. Combine this all with some early reliability issues, thank you head gaskets, and the Focus RS fizzled out before it could fully shine. Okay, so here is a car that barely anyone knows existed. It's the SS, Chevy SS. And no, I'm not talking about a trim level. This was a standalone product, a full-blown V8 powered sleeper sedan that nobody knew because, well, Chevy didn't even try to market it. 450 horsepower, rear-wheel drive, manual transmission. It had all the right ingredients to be a hit, but Chevy didn't bother to advertise it. They didn't run any ads. No social media, buzz, no nothing. And to top it off, the SS name, well, it really just confused people. Does that stand for super sport? So this epic sedan flew under the radar, sold in very small numbers, and was quietly discontinued. But if you can get your hands on one today, you have scored a gem, which if you want to learn how to buy ideal cars and make money enjoying them, well, check out our Ideal Car Strategies free workshop. I've linked to it in the first comment below. Okay, now let's talk about the Acura NSX, the second generation that was supposed to be a game changer, but ended up being, well, just way too complicated, like my past relationships. The original NSX is a legend, and when Acura announced that they were bringing it back with hybrid tech in 2017, enthusiasts thought this sounded like a baby P1. And that's because it had 570 horsepower, a twin-turbo V6, and the kind of performance that could give supercars a run for their money. So, what went wrong, you ask? For one, the hybrid powertrain was just too much for some buyers to wrap their head around. They wanted the raw simplicity of the original, not a hybrid supercar. supercar thing. Then there was the price. At 160 grand, the new NSX didn't have the same allure as its predecessor. Despite its cutting-edge tech, the NSX just didn't connect with the market, and Acura pulled the plug in 2022. Okay, now we get to talk about a legend, a supercar slayer legend called the Supra A90. This was the comeback that no one saw coming, and somehow the flop nobody expected. Launched in 2019, the A90 Supra brought back one of the most iconic nameplates in all of JDM history, but instead of flying off the shelves, it was hit with controversy. For one, the car was co-developed with BMW. Sharing the platform and engine with the BMW Z4. How sacrilege. And that put purists on alert. It was dubbed the Supra. Z4 Supra, get it? And while the 335 horsepower inline-six engine performed well and the car handled brilliantly, it just didn't have the same modding potential as the Mark IV Supra. You know, the one with the 2J. Yeah, add to the fact that sales plunged by nearly 50% in 2023, despite Toyota finally adding a manual gearbox, which we got invited out to go drive at the test track. And ultimately, it just didn't live up to the enormous hype or expectations set by the legendary Mark IV. So, while it's a fun car in its own right, and I really like them, it will forever live in the shadow of its older brother. Yeah. The Subaru Baja, a car that's become the poster child for weird, but wonderful. Subaru essentially took their rugged, beloved Outback and said, let's turn this thing into a pickup. The result was the Baja, which combined all-wheel drive with a tiny truck bed. It sounded like a match made in heaven for outdoorsy types, right? Well, not so fast, even though the Baja did come with a turbocharger, but it wasn't that fast. You see, the price tag for the Baja was 25 grand, which was double what you'd pay for a real truck like the Ford Ranger at the time. The truck guys, they laughed, and the wagon folks were like, why sacrifice space for a bed that small? It's smaller than the one I sleep in every night. So the Baja ended up being neither a great pickup nor a great wagon. It was stuck in this weird limbo. After just a few years of production, Subaru pulled the plug. But today, the Baja has gained a cult following as a quirky, capable rig. They're cool. The Nissan 370Z should have been a home run. A lightweight, rear-wheel drive sports car with 332 horsepower V6 that sounded great and drove even better. But here is the thing. It just didn't evolve. Launched in 2009, the 370Z stayed almost completely unchanged for over a decade. Sounds like the GTR as well. Meanwhile, its competition, like the Ford Mustang and Chevrolet Camaro, kept getting faster, more powerful, and more high-tech. The 370Z just sat there, stuck in time, and buyers quickly moved on. It reminds me of my favorite band that put out a great first album and then really never followed it up with anything. I'm talking about Nickelback. What? You don't like Nickelback? Oh, okay. Well, it's like the 370Z. Sure, it's still a great car, but by the time Nissan finally introduced the new Nissan Z in 2023, the 370 was already fading into obscurity. The Audi TT, a stylish, fun little sports coupe that just never found its audience. Launched back in the late 90s, I remember those. The TT was Audi's attempt at making a nimble, everyday sports car. It kind of looks like a small R8. And with quattro all-wheel drive and turbocharged engines, it had all the right ingredients. But here's the problem. Coupes were already dying by the time the TT was in its prime. People were moving towards crossovers and SUVs. How lame. And Audi's own lineup of sleek sedans overshadowed the TT, even when they tried to spice it up with the TTS and TTRS, which cranked out over 400 horsepower. The market just wasn't interested. The TT, it's a blast to drive, but it slowly disappeared into niche territory as buyers moved on to bigger, more practical options. All right, let's talk about the Ford Contour SVT, the car that tried to be the American BMW M3, failed. This little European-inspired sedan was based on the Ford Mondeo, and it seemed to have all the right parts to work. A 2.5-liter V6, 195 horses, a 5-speed manual, and Euro-grade handling. The SVT team tweaked everything from the suspension to the exhaust, and the results were a sharp-handling, fun-to-drive car with some serious personality. But here's the thing. While car enthusiasts and journalists absolutely adored it, buyers did not. It was priced too high, and for the same money, people could get a bigger Taurus or cheaper Escort. Great options, right? The tight interior and quirky looks didn't help either. Even though it was a blast to drive, the Contour SVT was ultimately a sales flop and only lasted one generation. Today, it's a rare sight on the road, and when you see one, look twice. And if you find one in good shape, you've got yourself a cool piece of Ford history. The Volvo V90, a luxurious, stylish, and incredibly practical wagon that deserved way more love. With its sleek Scandinavian design and top-notch safety features, you'd think it would have a cult following, which now it does. But when it was new, Americans didn't like wagons anymore, or really ever. Why is BMW bringing an M5 Touring here? I don't know, but the V90 should have been a reason that they shouldn't, even though it's really cool. I mean, I like the RS6 too. But by the time the V90 came to market, SUVs were already taking over, and people were more interested in high-riding crossovers like the XC90 than a station wagon, no matter how sleek it was. And the price? $51,000 for a base level, putting it directly against more versatile and trendy crossovers. Despite all of this, the V90 handled beautifully and was a perfect mix of luxury and utility. But ultimately, the market dictated its fate, and Volvo quietly discontinued the V90 in the US, leaving only a handful on the road. These things are rarer than like F40s and LaFerraris, so when you see one on the road, give a little tap. Julia, you were the one that got away. The Alfa Romeo Giulia is what I'm talking about. You know, the car that aimed to blend Italian flair with sports sedan performance. It was launched in 2017, and especially the Quadrifoglio version was a beast on paper. A Ferrari-derived 510 horsepower twin-turbo V6 with handling that could give the M3 and C63 a serious run for their money. The problem, well, as with many Alfas, came down to reliability and build quality issues. Owners reported frequent electrical problems, engine misfires, and other frustrating quirks. This shaky reliability scared off many buyers, especially in the premium sedan market where people expect bulletproof dependability. Despite its stunning performance and even more stunning looks, sales plummeted by 64% between 2022 and 2023. Still a gorgeous, thrilling car, but owning one is definitely a heart over head decision. So that's a wrap on some of the coolest cars that flopped harder than a belly flop off the high dive. Which one do you think doesn't deserve to, well, not sell when it was for sale? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed the vid, like, subscribe, turn on that notification bell, and check out some of these Ideal vids over here. I'm Brad, this is Ideal. See you next week, and promise me one thing, keep living the Ideal lifestyle.